Is there danger? The light is my strength.
We need
Justice
more
shall be
gold.
done. The light is my strength. A sound plan. I'm here to help. The light is my strength. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. Is there danger? For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Light is my strength.
Our allied town is being
Certainly.
attacked.
Of course. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. Of course. Certainly. Of course. For
Our
honor.
allied town is being attacked.
Betrayer of the light.
Certainly. Of course. Certainly. Of course.
You are past redemption.
A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan.
Our allied town is being attacked.
For honor. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. I stand for the light is my strength. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan.
Feel my wrath.
Our allied town is being attacked.
For my father, the king. Of course. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Of course.
Our allied town is
For
being
honor.
attacked.
Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Certainly.
Our allied hero has
A
been slain.
sound plan. Of course. For Lord Oran. A sound plan. Of course.
Betrayer of the light.
For honor. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. For honor. Justice is come. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Foul name. For honor. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. For my father. Of course. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. Of course. For honor. Certainly. For honor. Of course.
Feel my wrath.
Justice shall be. Certainly.
Our allied
sound
town is being attacked.
Of course. A sound plan. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course.
Betrayal of the light.
For honor. Of course. For honor. Of course. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound
Our allied
plan.
town is being
Of
attacked.
course.
You are past redemption.
A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. Of course.
Feel my wrath.
For honor. A sound plan.
Our
For
allied
honor.
town is being attacked.
Certainly. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course.
Foul name.
Certainly.
Our allied town is being attacked.
A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Of course. Certainly. For honor.
Betrayer of the light. Foul name.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Of course. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly.
Our allied town is being attacked.
A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course.
Our allied
honor.
town is being attacked.
Certainly. Of course. For honor. Of course. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly.
Our
sound
allied hero
plan.
has been slain.
Of course. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Of course. For honor. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan.
We're under
For honor.
attack.
Certainly. Of course. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan.
Our allied town is
course.
being attacked.
Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Of course.
Our hero has been slain.
I stand for the light.
Our allied town is being
Certainly.
attacked.
Of course. Certainly. Of course. Is there danger? Certainly.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Justice shall be done. I'm here to help.
Our allied
sound
town
plan.
is being attacked.
Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. Of course. For honor. Of course. For honor.
Feel my wrath.
Of course. A sound plan. Of course.
You
We're
are
under
past
attack.
For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan.
For my father, the king.
Of course. A sound plan.
Our allied town is
course.
being attacked.
For honor. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. Justice shall be done. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan.
Our allied town is being attacked. Our allied
Of
hero
course.
has been slain.
A sound plan.
Justice is come.
For honor. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. For honor.
Our allied town is being attacked. Our allies' hero has
Betrayer
been
of
slain.
Of course. For honor.
Justice is come.
Of course.
For my father, the king.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Certainly. Of course. For honor.
Our
Certainly.
allied town is being
A sound
attacked.
plan. For honor. Is there danger?
Justice is come.
Certainly. For honor. A sound
Our
plan.
allied town is being
For honor.
attacked.
Certainly. Of course. For honor. Of course. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan.
You are past redemption.
Our allied town is being attacked.
For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly.
We're under
For honor.
attack.
Of course. I stand for the light.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Light is my strength. A sound plan.
We're under attack.
I'm here to help. Is there danger? For honor.
Our
Of
allied
course.
town is being attacked.
The light is my strength. Certainly. A sound plan. I'm here to help. Light is my strength. I'm here to help.
Our allied town is being attacked.
I stand for the light. Certainly. A sound plan.
You are past redemption. For Lord Oran.
For honor. Certainly.
Our allied town is being attacked.
For honor. Certainly.
Feel my wrath.
Of course. Certainly. Of course.
Foul knave.
Certainly.
Our
course.
allied town is being
Certainly.
attacked.
Of course. Certainly. For honor. Of course. Justice shall be done. I stand for the light.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Justice shall be done. I stand for the light. The light is my strength. For
Our
honor.
allied town is being
Is
attacked.
there danger? Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. Justice shall be done. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan.
We're under
For honor.
attack! Town is being
Certainly.
attacked!
Of course. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. For honor. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. The light is my strength.
Our allies' hero has been slain!
Of course. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. For honor.
Feel my wrath.
Certainly.
Our allied town is being attacked!
For honor. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. For my father. For
Our
honor.
allied town is being
Certainly.
attacked!
Of course. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Of course. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. Of course. A sound
Our
plan.
allied town is being attacked!
Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly.
Our allies' hero
Of
has been
course.
slain!
Certainly. For honor. Certainly. Of course. For honor. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. A sound plan.
Our hero has been slain! We're under attack!
Of course. For honor. Certainly. I stand for the light. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. Certainly.
Betrayal.
For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan.
Our hero has been slain! Our allied town is being attacked! Our allied hero has been slain!
Is there danger? For honor. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor.
Our allied
Of
town
course.
is being attacked!
For honor. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor.
Our
A sound
allied
plan.
town is being attacked!
For honor. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly.
Our allied town is
honor.
being attacked!
Certainly. Of course. Justice shall be done. A sound plan.
You are back.
Of course. For honor. Certainly. Of course. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan.
Our
Certainly.
allied town is being
Feel
attacked!
my wrath.
For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. Of course. Light is my strength. For honor. Of course.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Of course.
For my father, the king.
Certainly.
You are passive against
For honor. A sound plan. For honor.
Our
A
allied
sound
town
plan.
is being attacked. Slain.
Of course. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Of course. Certainly. For honor.
Our
Certainly.
allied hero has been slain.
A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan.
Take your time. Look around.
I stand for the light. Light is my strength. Is there danger? Justice shall be done. The light is my strength. Is there danger? I'm here to help. Is there danger? Certainly. A sound plan. Justice shall be done. Is there danger? Certainly. Of course. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. Betrayer of the fight. Of course. A sound plan.
you are passive.
Certainly. A sound plan.
Under attack.
Of course. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Of course. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. For honor. Of course. For honor.
Our allied town is being attacked.
The light is my strength. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Of course. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan.
Our allied town is being attacked.
For honor. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Certainly.
Foul play.
Our
sound
allied hero has been slain.
For honor.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. A sound plan.
Our allied town is being attacked. Our allied hero has been slain.
Is there danger? Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Of course.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Justice has come. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. For honor.
Our allied
For Lord
town
Around.
is being attacked.
Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Of course.
Our allied
Certainly.
town is being attacked.
For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. For honor. For my father, the king.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Sound plan. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. Of course. For honor. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. For my father, the king. Feel my wrath. Justice has come.
You are past redemption. Betrayer of the light.
Of course. A sound plan.
Foul name.
Of course. A sound plan.
Our allied town is being attacked!
Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. I'm here to help.
Our allied town is being attacked!
Sound. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan.
Our allied hero has been
Of
slain!
course.
Our allied town is being attacked! Allied hero
Of course.
has been slain!
For honor. Of course. A
Our
sound
allied hero
plan.
has been slain!
For honor. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. A sound plan.
Our allied town is
Of course.
being attacked!
For honor. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan.
You are past redemption.
For honor.
Our hero has been slain! Our allied town is being attacked! Our allied town is being attacked!
Of course. A sound plan. Justice shall be done. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly.
Our allied town is being attacked!
I stand for the light. For honor. A sound plan. For honor. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly.
Our allied town is being attacked!
Is there danger?
Our allied hero
Of
has
course.
been slain!
A sound plan. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan.
Our allied hero has been
Of
slain!
course. A sound plan.
Our allied town is being attacked!
Of course. A sound plan. Certainly.
Our allied town is being attacked!
Of course. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan.
Our allied town is being attacked!
Certainly. For my father, the king. Of course. For honor.
Our allied hero
A
has
sound
been
plan.
slain!
Of course.
Our allied hero
Certainly.
has been slain! Our allied town is being
A sound
attacked!
plan. For honor. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor.
Our allied tower is being attacked. Our allied tower under attack. Slain.
The light is destroyed. Certainly. A sound plan.
Our allied tower is being attacked.
Of course. For honor. Certainly. I'm here to help. I stand for the light. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. Certainly. For honor. Certainly.
Feel my wrath.
Of course. I'm here to help.
You are past redemption.
For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. For honor. Certainly. For honor. Justice shall be done.
Our
I'm here to
allied
help.
tower is being
A
attacked.
sound plan. Certainly. Of course. A sound
Our
plan.
allied hero has been slain.
For honor. A sound plan.
Our allies hero. Our
For
allied
honor.
town is being
A sound
attacked.
plan. For honor. Certainly.
Our allied hero has been slain.
Of course.